So we should have our panelists getting teed up here. Panelists, if you could turn on your video so I could see you on the side. We got Amy, we got Deb. Deneen was here. Deneen's back. Fantastic. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to do a brief round of intros. I'll let each person introduce yourself. 1 minute. I got some questions teed up, but you just saw in this community, they are not shy. They are not timid. They will ask questions. So I think we're going to start with one or two, and then it's just going to spiral out of control. But that's kind of a feature, not a bug, as we say in tech land. So that said, we'll just go in order on the screen. Deb, you want to give a 1 minute intro of who you are, what you're up to the community?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. So Deborah Duffer, I started in public accounting nearly 20 years ago. My most recent gig in public accounting was BDO, ran the technology team in our outsourcing practice, grew the practice from 12 million to 70 million in less than 10 years. Now I'm over here at Woodard consulting and helping the top 500 firms build out their CAS practices using the Woodard methodology of the 7 ideals. So happy to be here and love these two women.
Yeah, big shout out to Deb. Deb, you were the first yes for the summit, as a side note. It was like, when you said that, I'm like, I think it's going to happen. People are saying yes. So I appreciate you raise your hand so early. Amy, can you give us a brief intro?
Hello, everyone. Happy to be with you, David, Deneen, and Deb as well. My name is Amy Vetter. I am a CPA. I also started traditional practice in accounting, worked in Big Four, it was Big Six at the time, and audit, and then started what wasn't called CAS at the time. I just called it outsourced bookkeeping and fractional controllership and CFO work. I was a partner of a small business services practice at a regional firm, and then had my own national practice where we specialized in franchises. And since that time, I pivoted and have been a consultant for many, many years to the profession, whether through technology companies or through my own company now, the B3 Method Institute. We've been doing this for 8 years, and we have advisory service, practice roadmap, courses, and community. And we also do a lot of coaching around work-life balance and really creating these practices in the way that you can, because this is a very entrepreneurial thing that you have, and you can decide how you want to work in this type of practice.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming on board. Excited you're here. And Deneen.
Yes, hi. Well, first, David, I want to say thanks for doing this cast day, and thanks for lining me up with Deb and Amy, who I've known for years. And so I'm really excited, especially the format, because we love Q&A, and the three of us can riff on anything cast related and make it really fun. I've been helping firms build a cast practice for 17 years. It started in '09 when I worked at CPA.com, and I ran the Bill.com accounts program and the Intact accounts program, really trying to help bring the cloud to firms way before they were ready for the cloud. And so they were really, really resistant to automating with technology. So we needed to move into a space of education. And so CPA.com has a CAS workshop that I have facilitated. So I, through that workshop, trained thousands of firms on how to build a CAS practice. I left because I saw AI coming into this space, and I was vice president at BotKeeper. That was in 2020. And so started out with helping firms embrace the cloud, then helping them embrace AI, and have since gone off and started. I'm a founder of my own CAS community called Infinite Ties. I have two co-founders that worked with Deb at BDO. So they're the practitioners. And we really found there's a need, not just for CAS leaders. I think there's a lot of training for CAS leaders, but then how do we upskill the talent, the team, the people that are doing the work every single day? That's what our CAS community is for the people paying the bills and doing the payroll and preparing the financial statements. Because technology is automating their job, how do we help upskill them? Because these people tend not to be CPAs, and so they don't need CPA accreditation, but they need, controllers, CFOs. And so that's who we're working with in Infinite Ties.
All right, brilliant. I already see questions coming in. We haven't even started, so look, don't be timid. Ask questions. I do have one to start, and so we're gonna. This is a big question. we're not going to go through all three questions, right? So just kind of laying up the category here. And again, the beauty of the panels is we can kind of veer off different directions. So um, let's go with one that we could do a summit just on how AI reshaped CAS roles and services, right? But like, I'm curious, I guess, for the panelists, maybe let's like pick maybe a specific one or specific function within that one and things that you're seeing, kind of evolve from an AI perspective. We'll for this one, we won't do every question kind of around the horn, but for this one, we'll kind of go around the horn. So, Amy, what have you seen, in terms of like AI? Is impact good or not good? I'm curious, wherever you want to take this in terms of the CAS roles and services.
So cool. There's so many amazing tools being developed right now. There's also so much artificial intelligence that you don't even realize that you're utilizing in the tools that you have. It's when you have that moment of delight of like, oh, that was easier, that was cool, and not even realize that it is there. I think uh, we have to be very, very intentional about where you utilize this and where is the customer experience. So one of the things that I feel has gotten in the way of CAS is the fact that there's too much focus on the transactions and not enough focus on the customer experience and providing advice. And so the way I look at these tools, and so many are coming as well that are being developed, is that it speeds up the transaction process so that you can spend more time on that human experience and the advisory work. So I think it's really important to think to, I know a lot of practices kind of come together and the work just starts happening and it's not necessarily planned out. And
Uh-oh,
I think,
she
I don't
froze.
know,
She froze.
bros.
Oh, no.
See, this kind of stuff doesn't happen in person. I've never seen somebody freeze in person, though. I imagine it happens. I'll tell you what. Then we'll hand this over. We'll hand this over to Deb.
upskill.
Oh, sorry, she's back.
Oh, you're back, Amy. You froze.
Oh, sorry.
Uh-oh.
I don't know where you cut off, but it sounded
So,
really good.
yeah.
I think
A great
I think what
pose.
you're saying is like AI can help automate a lot of like what some like classify as lower level transactions or transactional work. But are you complementing that? Are you complementing that with upskilling your team to have better conversations with clients, to deliver a better client experience because of the automation?
Yeah, and I wouldn't just say it's lower level work, it's all the way up to insights. So it can speed up the advice and help educate you on providing the advice and maybe get deeper into numbers that you would have never been exposed to. So I think where left off is that being really intentional about documenting your workflow today, where things are manual, where things are duplicated, and where some of these tools, if you test them, are the best fit so that you can speed up the work itself so that you can spend more time with your clients.
Perfect, perfect. Deb, how would you take this?
So there's so much on my mind with this, and I'm trying to reply to questions too in the chat. So yeah, so AI is as old as it's going to be today. It's not going to get any older. It gets newer every single day, and there are some amazing tools. I'm total technology nerd when it comes to this. One of my favorite ones that I saw this year showcased at Digital CPA in December was Aider AI. That tool is going to do so much for us as professionals. AI is not going to take away people's jobs, but people that do not adopt AI will be replaced by those that do. And that's the things we have to remember. Using it, mitigating risk. I love ChatGPT, but I use it in a paid version. I protect that data. So there's things that we have to do to stay in our swim lanes. But if you haven't seen Aider.ai, I'll be showcasing it in my presentation if you attend the BDO Alliance conference or if you'll be at Scaling New Heights. But there's so many cool things. Deneen mentioned BotKeeper. Intuit spending gazillion dollars on building it out. Xero's spending a gazillion dollars. You have the virtual assistant in Bill. There's just a lot. The AI and Ramp. I can rattle this stuff off. You can do more in less time by leveraging those tools. So your ROI and your on these engagement, your gross profit margin, and the revenue that you can drive per FTE increases dramatically with that adoption. I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think for many, it's funny, I talk with firms all the time and they're struggling to keep up with demand.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is one of the big ways. Deneen, how do you take this question on where AI is going in terms of CAS, reshaping CAS roles and services?
Yeah, well, I'm obviously all about the tech. I mean, that's what I've helped firms do the majority of my career. And so there's so much coming at us right now in this accounting space that it is overwhelming. And I do think a lot of these new techs are in their infancy, which is okay, but you have to recognize that they are all new. And so, being thoughtful, I like the word, Amy, intentional about what tech you embrace. I would say CAS leaders tend to be very tech forward thinking. They've been embracing technology for years. Aider AI sounds really good to me, Deb. You're supposed to introduce me to them because I'm very interested in what they're doing. And so being interested, but to your point, Deb, everybody's investing in bringing AI into their technology. So you might not need to try something new. QBO is investing a lot in bringing AI. And similar to what Deb says, I do not believe tech is replacing talent. There is a shortage of talent. There are more businesses than bookkeepers. People are offshoring to India because they can't onboard CAS clients fast enough. I hear that all the time. I've got a wait list of clients to onboard. I don't have enough talent to deliver, the demand. And so tech is the place to help you grow and scale really quickly. But you have to think about what processes need to change with the tech to make sure that your talent is taking advantage of all the new, they can't do it the same way with the new tech. But at the end of the day, I would agree too, it's how do you help the talent be more analytical and advisory? How are you telling stories to your business owners about their data that's meaningful to them? And that's what I think the AI is going to bring, all of this ability to be more analytical and advisory.
Yeah, brilliant. We're gonna shift gears a little bit outside of AI just because I'm seeing some questions coming in and I think and I've heard some flavor of this before, which is Travis asked, most clients don't know what CAS means. This is an accounting term. This is my take. This is an accounting term. We love saying CAS. This is the CAS summit. You go to a small business owner, you go to an owner, HVAC company, 10 million a year and say, we offer CAS. He's gonna be like, what? What did you just call? He's gonna think you just swore at him, right? So he's like, how do you talk about the service in a client-friendly terminology and the service relative to other CPA services? Amy, you wanna kick this one off?
Yeah, I think it's important that we aren't using internal terminology outwardly on our messaging. So what's really important is to think about what are the things that they do in their daily business, cash flow forecasting, budgeting. Maybe if you actually are focused on a vertical, you're talking about Z out reports. If you're in retail, you're talking about scope change and making sure that your scope change management, if you're in construction, that you're being very specific to what that client is looking for and what their pain points are. I even say that if you're offering CFO services, that you wouldn't go out saying, I'm doing CFO services. I would be talking about the work that I do and the problems that I solve. And that is what attracts a client versus the names that we might say internally in our practices.
Yeah, I love that. Speak their language. Deb, what's your take on it? I know people got a preview if you're hanging out in the chats, but what's your take
I
on it?
am. So we have so many dang acronyms in the accounting profession between CPA and R2R and P2P and O2C and you name it, right? CAS, CAS, right? So I agree with Amy 100%. We need to articulate to these folks outwardly what we are actually doing. And I love to tell stories when I'm talking to prospects on actual instances. Like I had a client that, you know, they were just so beside themselves trying to keep up with paying bills. And we were able to bring that in-house, right? And actually pay their bills for them. They could go to their kids' ball games on the weekends and things were done accurately, timely, and we added value because we helped them manage their cash flow. Now, if you can articulate that and explain it, what you do, not so much how you do it, because that's really getting into the weeds. They don't need to know or want to know that's how you do it, but they want to know how much it's going to cost them. And if somebody comes in and asks you price right out of the starting gate, it's not a good client for you, right? But it's what is the value you're bringing to the table? What is in it for them?
I think it's such a powerful point that's easy to miss, which is the prospect, the client, they're going to connect with stories. And I'll tell you, my head doesn't even go there, right? And you know, I'm a fan of stories and storytelling, but we forget that stories really matter. These examples of clients you've helped really, really matter. Side note, and AI infused, if you're struggling to build out a little story, chat GPT it. Right? What happened? Chat GPT, turn this into a 30-second story. Make it. I told Chat GPT one time to punch it up. I was like, I don't know if it knows what that means. I told it to punch it up. And it did. It added this dialogue, this internal conflict. It was so neat. So if that's not your jam, like most people, throw it in ChatGPT, say, hey, this is what happened. I want to make this a more compelling story. I can tell to prospects. Really great use of that. Deneen, I actually have a question for you that came in, which is under that future of CAS look like. The original question is, how can we stay ahead of technology trends? I'm going to change it a little bit. And if you're listening right now and you're like, that's not what I meant, then type into chat and let me know. We can change it. But I think it's like, how do you properly assess or tinker with tools? How do you stay current, not even ahead? Like it's happening so quickly, and you always have fear of missing out, like on this tool and that tool, and you just have shiny object syndrome. So how do you thoughtfully kind of test or experiment with all these new tools? How do you know which one to check out versus not check out? How do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I want to answer the other question really quick because I think about, people define CAS differently. And even internally at the firm, your tax partner, your audit partner probably, and even your managing partner and your talent all probably define CAS differently. So the client isn't calling saying, I want CAS, but the client is calling saying, I want help with my books. The client is calling saying, my books are a mess, or I don't understand my data. Typically they're saying, I want help with bookkeeping because I don't know what else to ask for. So I always tell CAS leaders, say, yep, I can help you with books. Yep, I can get them clean. I'm going to clean it up. You're going to have accurate data every single month, but then we're going to take it further. So know that what you're asking for help with, I can do, although that's not where we end. That's where we start. And once we get clean, accurate data every single month, then we're going to start looking at giving you some advice or, yes, it's going to cost more, but know that I can do more. Like, data analytics, or like there's just so much more we can do. Predictive analytics, cash flow advisory, like that's where we want to get to. That's the good stuff. It's going to cost more, but there's so much more we can do. And so that's kind of how I think about that. Now, the tech, yes. How do you stay ahead of tech? My co-founder, Christine Triantos, was also head of tech at BDO. And she loved automation. And so she challenged her team to always be looking for tech. And she challenged her team to be saying, listen, what's taking you a lot of time? And maybe there's a client that has something they need that's taking a lot of time, and go out and find tech that automates it. And so she had her team bring her back tech every quarter. And then they would look at that tech, and if they implemented that tech and it saved them time, that person got a bonus. And so get your team involved. They're the ones doing the work. They know where you're losing money in your margins, right? And if they're bringing in automation for their day job, and you then empower them to by saying, if we implement this and you save us time, which means our margins go up, I'm going to give you a bonus. So I think it's not a one-person job. I think get your team involved in bringing in the automation that makes sense for the work that they're doing.
Yeah, I love that. Start with the pain. Deb, you're strike me as a tinkerer a lot, right? You,
She
like every
likes
time.
shiny things. She
Yeah,
definitely likes the shiny
every
things.
time
Yeah.
I've heard you talk a couple times, and there's always a list of 4, 5, 6, 7 new tools, which I know is just part of your DNA. But as you're working with firms too, how do you help them figure out which ones to explore, not explore? When's the right time to do a beta or pilot? How do you think about this?
Yeah, so I learn 3 new pieces of technology a month. That's my goal.
Wow.
And I do it because I have the opportunity to. Let me explain. I'm still a practicing accountant. I work on about 12 clients' books. That's my side gig. And Joe Woodard's perfectly happy with that because they are my incubator. They are my test environment. But I will tell you one thing that has escalated my ability to understand this technology, and that is spending time on vendor floors. That's the very first time I attended SleaderCon back in 2008, I think. And Amy presented, and I said, I want to be just like her. And so she was my motivating factor of moving into a type of role that I have right now. So I owe a lot of kudos to her for her example and the way she did things.
Thank you.
And I knew that I needed to stay relevant and attend these conferences and work those vendor floors. And I am not kidding you. I built my career on Scaling New Heights vendor floor. It is the 16th year I will be going. I would look at my client base. I would look at problems that I had, and I would work that floor until I could come back with a couple of solutions. And I would talk to the clients about it. I would drive $100,000 of revenue at one conference. You don't think the partners were happy with sending me to those conferences when I came back with that type of revenue possible for the firm? And so when we were formerly SS&G before BDO, we used to have, like Deneen was expressing, Christine did when she was with Anton Collins Mitchell before she came over to BDO. At SS&G, we had cash for clients. You don't think that's motivating, right? When you bring in a new client, you introduce a new piece of technology, you're successful, and you get 3% of that cash revenue for 3 years, it adds up. Incentivize, incentivize, incentivize.
I love a quick clarification question, Deb. So when you came back and you had 100K impact, was that in savings, or did you come back with ways to, or did you get new clients from these conferences? What did that mean for you?
So that 100,000 would be to implement a particular piece of technology or to drive automation for that client. So like I'm a big fan of SOS inventory, and I love inventory. I know a lot of people hate inventory. But I could do a project. It was a $50,000 project for implementing an inventory solution for a client. So it was driving project work and then in turn increasing my MRR, or monthly recurring revenue.
I love that. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
Um, Amy, I've been in many of your talks as well. You have a whole tech stack you talk about. How do you help your clients or people you're speaking to assess this tool versus that tool, or this part of the tech stack versus other?
Yeah, so I think it is very much a mix of both what Deb and Deneen said is first you have to be curious yourself as a leader, constantly looking at what's new and observing that. However, just going back to what I was talking about being intentional about your workflow, when you innovate with your team, think about what specific problem you want them to solve, maybe then anything that you do in CAS. And it might be a different thing each month. So, one of the things I really believe in is team innovation, like Deneen brought up. When I had my practice, I called it coffee talk, and I would pair up 2 people every month that didn't work together, and they were working on a specific problem, either for a client or for the business, and solving it and then bringing it back to our team meeting with ideas and answers. So if you're trying to solve for accounts payable, if you're trying to solve for um, analytics and KPIs on financial reports, if you're trying to solve for cash flow forecasting, like pick things that either you think are an opportunity for your practice, or like you said, David, it doesn't always have to be revenue. It can be time savings, cost savings that also help the practice as well. And let them try and test. And usually I say this is like 20%, like not more than that, right? Like we don't want them taking over and not doing their work and all the things that you need to get done to make sure that client work is done. But pick clients that are friendly clients, in your practice and say, I want to test this new tool. I'm still going to do your work like I've always done, but I want to test it and I want you to experience it as well. So that you're getting feedback from the client too of how that tool is feeling to them. Depends if you're only using it internally or if you use it with the client as well. But if you are using it with the client, I think it's important to see how it feels for them too, not just what it does. And same thing with your staff is when they're testing it, how does it feel to them, not just what it does? If it's clunky, if it's hard to figure out where to go or where the result is, that user interface piece is so incredibly important for it to be successful in your practice and people actually utilize it the right way. And then really come back with your results of 2 to 3 tools that your staff might have picked out or you even picked out and assigned it out for people to try, and then come back and make some ideas of which clients would this be a best fit to start rolling out and eventually roll out, not like have to change everything overnight, but just having that innovation mindset so that people don't feel like if it doesn't work, they're personally branded as they failed or they did something wrong, that you're creating this culture of innovation because it really helps to not only push forward the practice, but give you opportunities of other types of services you can offer because of it.
Hey, I want
Yeah,
to add something, David, to that, because I think this is really important to point out. And I love the fact that Amy said, don't tag them as a failure. Listen, guys, we learn more from failures than you do from success. Because when you cross those bridges and you have those hiccups, you learn how to work. It's like rolling up your sleeves. It's using the elbow grease. It's figuring it out. And to me, I say, bring it on, because that in itself is going to make you be able to look and choose technology appropriately. If you always are successful, what are you learning?
And I want to add to that. I think, Deb, firms, you know your people that are raising their hands. You know the Debs that are like, bring it, bring it. I love automation. I love technology. I want to try new stuff. You know your shining stars. You also know your people on your team that are like, I just want to do my work the way I've always done it. I don't want to try anything new. Right. And so you want to pick that person who's all excited about technology, who loves, trying new things. That's the person that won't feel like a failure or feel like they've wasted their time. And that's going to give you the good feedback.
great, great, all great answers. I'm going to take a look at the questions. Um, You know what? We're going to throw a curveball in here for a second, then we're going to go back into the wonderful world of automation and AI, I think. But somebody said, I think this is such an interesting question. So Tyler put out, and look, if you're listening right now, I'm going to ask the panelists, but I also want you to type into the chat what's been working for you, right? So we can go both framework level, we can also go very tactical. That's the power of being here again live. So Tyler said, where are people finding these clients? We're struggling to convert all clients to the new model, and we haven't had a market in so long, we don't know where to start. So if you are currently investing in marketing and it is paying off a specific channel, go ahead and type that in. Channel's not the only thing. By the way, we're going to talk about that here in a second, but go ahead and type it in to the Q&A. What channels are working for you? Is it going to your niche trade shows? Is it doing outbound email? Are you doing pay-per-click? Is it content? It's podcast, whatever it may be. But I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Deb, and we can go around the horn and talk about CAS client acquisition, which is actually wasn't on our radar for today, but we will go there.
Yeah, this is great. And I replied to Tyler and gave him a couple ideas in the chat as well. Here's the thing. It's not just willy-nilly, right? You at a firm, right? And Amy's agreeing with me. You have to identify your ideal client. Now, as firms get bigger, they could have 4, 5, 6 different niches that they're focused on. If you're a smaller practice, I highly recommend that you don't have more than 2, because you get to be subject matter experts in that. So identify that ideal client, what fits. And you had put up on the slides earlier today, David, on professional services. There's easier areas to roll out the CAS. But what I will tell you is organically, if you are in a firm, there are lots of opportunities within your tax practice And there's probably opportunities in the audit practice where you're not making any money that you could transition into CAS, because you know how much work that audit team has to do with maybe another outsourced service to prepare those books for an audit, especially with nonprofits. I see it all the time. So I highly recommend you look internally. I work with firms. We build surveys. I pull together data. I use Power BI. I lay out graphs and demographics. So the other area that's absolutely critical, and somebody had asked a question regarding this for obtaining clients, but it's how do you change old clients into new clients, right? Because you can drive additional revenue there. Well, the biggest thing is going back and looking at what you said you were going to do for them in their statement of work, because you're probably doing 5 or 6 other things that are completely out of scope and you aren't billing for it. You are stealing bread out of the basket, right? You're letting your clients steal that. And so you can drive business, you can identify that ideal client, and it's a perfect marriage. So I think it's really important to know what you're going after, because if you say yes to everything, you're a jack of all trades and master or mistress of none, and you're never going to get to that point that you are 250,000, 300,000 of revenue per FTE.
I want to double down on something you said, Deb, that I really agree with, is firms can look at their current book of business and upsell a lot of their current clients. If they're bookkeeping clients, if they're CAS clients, if they're tax clients, you can look at your current book of business. You also can look at your client base that maybe when they started with you 5 years ago were 1 million in revenue and now are 3 million in revenue. Call that client. They probably have more bill pay. They probably have more payroll. They probably have a lot of pain with that growth. Or you can call your client and say, hey, we've been working with you for 5 years and you've tripled in revenue. There's so much more we can do for you around helping you. Do you want to go to 6 million in revenue? We can help you. Our CAS division can help you to go from 3 to 6. And so looking at your current book in different ways, also looking at those ones that are after the fact or write up clients that also have grown or that need more services or you haven't talked to about their goals in a while, and call them up and say, hey, you've been our client. We've been doing it a certain way, but we have this whole new CAS division that we think is right for you. Let's talk to you about your business goals and how we can do more to help you grow. And so yes, there's a lot of things you can do to get new clients. And then what I want to add to it is I have found that people at firms do not know how to market CAS. They know how to market tax and they know how to market audit. That's your partners, or if you have a marketing division, but they don't themselves really understand what CAS is and what you're doing that's differently. And so they're kind of giving the CAS leaders that job. You need to market this, but on your own. And so they really struggle at, well, I'm not a marketer, right? And so talking to people that have figured out how to market CAS and going, I think somebody said, toward the niche, because typically CAS practices are generalists because you've kind of been bookkeeping and the tax people have sent it over to you to do the books. Well, this is different. And so focusing on certain verticals where you go really deep, and looking through your current client base to decide what that vertical is, or even whoever's leading the practice, what do they love? If they love fitness, then okay, market towards fitness folks. If they love restaurants and they're foodies, great, then market that vertical. So I feel like we could talk about this for an hour in itself, but Amy, I'll let you respond and what you want to add.
Yeah, and Amy, there's going to be a two-parter here, and folks, we're going to be wrapping up this panel here soon. So final questions coming in, because I also want to have time for if you want to connect with a panelist, where to go, and then also top takeaways. But Amy, if you have any thoughts, I'm sure you have a couple. We probably have 3 weeks worth of thoughts here, high-level thoughts on acquisition. And then somebody did ask, how are people making space for experimentation in busy schedules? Yes, tools are great. Yes, we want to do this, but we also schedule to capacity. So Amy, if you want to round out with both of those, and then we'll go into how to connect with you all and top takeaways.
Sure. So you have to do the work. There just isn't a way around it. When I started my practice and there was no cloud at the time, it was pounding the pavement, going to local businesses, it was going to chamber events, it was starting to become an expert in my field and networking. And I got most of my work at the time, and this is before I was with a firm. I started this on my own from other tax accountants I networked with, where they didn't want to do this work and I didn't want to do tax. And I started getting an influx in that. And so even if you just network with people in a different field that is experiencing what you do, but my warning message with it, which I see so many times, is like, I build this collateral piece, I have a website with a list of my services, and that's what I leave. Instead of really, when we go back to the beginning of talking about story or demos, actually showing what is it that you do and how do you help? And then someone in their head is like, oh, like I have 3 clients that I could send you, right? Like you don't have to actually list the services for them, that you're just basically showing what you do and what you provide and allow people to understand that. And so when we talk about verticals or niches, the reason for that is because it is really important that you become an expert in what you do. And so part of marketing, and again, pounding the pavement now, is getting onto webinars in the industries that you are targeting. So if you are targeting restaurants, that you're joining those restaurant associations, that you're contributing articles to wherever they're reading articles, that you are doing webinars, you're speaking at their conferences. Though you want to be where your clients are, and there isn't an easy button to marketing. It is that you do, so going back to making space, which is the other piece of this, you have to make space yourself and for your team. And the reason why I say your team is because I trained my team members to look for opportunities and to make sure that they were not doing work outside of their scope. So my best internal salespeople and marketers were my bookkeepers. Because if they tried to do something else in their compensation, they would get dinged for that, right? So kind of goes back to what Deb was talking about, is getting creative with compensation of the behaviors that you want. And so they knew they were outside their scope when they got certain questions from the client. If I don't give people space in order to have the right conversations, there's no way for them to even identify those opportunities and send them to you, the leader, or their manager, or whoever, however you have that process set up, so that they can go and talk to the client and say, oh, we have this service, we can help you, and so forth. And we're not even going to get into this, but in order to create space, you have to price right. And it's not taking every client that comes in the door. It's all, this is why your ICP, that client profile that you want in your practice, is so, so important, because you've got to create space for yourself and for your team to be not only doing their work, but looking for opportunities, whether it's technology or other clients as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we could cover so much more. We're gonna go around the horn. If the community wants to connect with you all, which I encourage them to do, what's the best way? And we're gonna do a top takeaway slide after this. We already have panelists coming in for the next one, which I'm very excited about. But we'll go Amy, Deb, Deneen. We'll go in that order. Where can people best connect with you? They want to say thanks for coming on, follow your work, whatever it may be.
Yeah, so I can put the link in the chat or the Q&A, wherever that is. But we offer a CFO and advisory mastermind and community course. You can go onto businessbalancebliss.com and find it under tax and advisory.
Fantastic. Deb, what's the best way for everyone to connect with you?
You can go out to the Woodard website and see and connect with us there, but email me directly, ddeffer@woodard.com. I get back to everyone in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, we should do a whole session on email workflow then. All right, Deneen, what's the best way for them to connect?
Zero inbox.
24 hours. Yes. Well, so Infinite Ties, you can look to the website. InfiniteTies.com is a CAS community. But as Deb said, happy to email you. I love talking CAS. If you have any CAS questions, just email me at ddias@infinite-ties.com. ties.accountant. And I can put it in the chat.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. Drop all the links in the chat. All right, for everybody, top takeaways time. Top takeaways. I mentioned this at the top, at the end of every panel. Type into the Q&A your top takeaways. What does this do? Well, it really helps you zero in on one thing you want to capture for today. I've already saw a couple in the chat. So type it back into the Q&A so you get to lock it in. Let's not waste this 45 minutes of the panel we just spent together. Let's lock in your top takeaway. Go ahead and type into the Q&A right now. Not only does it lock it in for you, but it helps share it with the rest of the community. And you never know, the way you phrase something can unlock value for other participants. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. So go ahead, type into the chat. Really excited to kind of read these takeaways. So let's spend a second, just kind of go through these. Invest in tech. Yeah, and I love the invest in tech, but then also I love the process of how they thought about incentivizing the team to spotlight pain points that tech can solve. Whoa, now it's really coming in. Love it. Great top takeaways so far. Focus on specialty rather than taking all comers. Yeah, so hard to do. Upselling to current clients, leveraging what you have done with them previously. I love that one. Michael mentioned define where you have expertise and focus on responsibilities, not acronyms. Case studies have worked well for us internally. I love the case study approach. Really great call out. Work with other core service groups like tax, or other complementary service providers to kind of get clients. And tech will not solve delivery shortcomings. Focus on talent, people with a technical background that can also work in-house. Great. Laura said value. Let the potential client know what's in it for them. Stories help. Yeah, a lot of stories take away. And believe me, again, I'll just reiterate, can't write a story. ChatGPT will get you started. Leveraging the tech to create more time and efficiency. Somebody said you can't say yes to everything. Oh boy, that's a tough one. I would say if you can get a post-it note and put it on, I have a little post-it note here. Put it on your wall. Can't say yes to everything. So if that's something you struggle with, I know it's so easy. You get in this business, you want to help clients, so you say yes, yes, yes. Paste it on the wall. Chris said, common sense is not common practice. Get back to the basics when it comes to storytelling. Pricing right is what allows you to have the time to focus on innovation. Amazing, amazing takeaways. Deneen, Deb, Amy, really appreciate the time. This has been a lot of fun. 45 minutes went by in a blink of an eye. I'll have to have you all come back on soon, do a podcast, do a second podcast, do a third podcast. Really appreciate your time. And for the community, I encourage you to follow these folks, reach out to them, connect with them, take up the Deb challenge, email her and see if she gets back to you. If she doesn't, let me know. We're going to hold Deb accountable. She said 24 hours. She'll get back to you by email. Test it out. Test her out. There's 86 people on here. Let's send her 86 emails, see what happens.
Bring it on.
But reach out to Deb, connect with Deneen, reach out to Amy. It's been a blast having you all, and thanks for coming. For folks that might need a quick water before the next one, or you want to lock down some final notes, please do so. I see people, the next panelist coming in. Fantastic. Now, if you need a little free resource as we're transitioning to panels, I'm going to be highlighting free resources at the end of every panel. Again, they're all free. There's no gimmick. It's not like you opt in and then we charge you $1. There's no secret trap door here. So one of the free resources I wanted to highlight was 32 workflow templates on the Jetpack Workflow website. Disclosure, you can always go to resources and grab it. I know that URL is a bit long, but if you're struggling to standardize, go to the website, 32 spreadsheet templates. If you're using Jetpack, if you're using another tool, doesn't matter. You can apply these spreadsheets everywhere else. All right. That said,